The idea is not to teach, but to get kids fall in love with data. And I'll start with a story. It was 10 a.m. on a Friday morning in sunny San Jose, and I was busy at work. And my 4-year-old son Rayyan is over here. He was busy. If you cannot see it, it says a Formula 1 car, and he was having a Formula 1 car race. And I was busy, I was trying to do work, but if you are a parent, this voice, the sound become kind of a white noise for you. And here I was looking at analyzing the data, and this was about Google autocompletes when people search for Reddit. Right? So Reddit is a social media. There are a lot of things which are happening. Here I was interested to see, okay, what's going on. And when I was analyzing this data, I was looking at few questions people are asking. So questions start with are, can, how, what, where, which, who, will. Right? Kind of interesting data that I was analyzing and creating this visual. And Rayyan was busy. Here I was with my laptop and doing my stuff, and back Formula 1 car race continuously going on, and then he stopped. I looked back, because as a parent, if you are hearing the sound, then it's okay. But if there is silence, then something is going on. There is some trouble. So I looked back and I said, what's going on? And he said, this looks like dome of a mosque. I thought maybe he's talking about some Lego pieces that he has in his hand or something. And I said, what? He said, this. I said, no. He said, yes. So I looked at it. Does this look like a mosque, a dome of a mosque to anyone?
Yes.
Who said yes? Okay. Yeah. So I tilted my head. And indeed, it looks like dome of a mosque, right? So, mashallah, like that was very enlightening for me. So, again, assalamu alaikum. My name is Gulrez Khan. I work as a data science leader at PayPal, and this is my journey. I started my career in 2005 in India. 2007, I moved to Seattle. 2010, I joined Microsoft, and 5 years ago, I moved to the Bay Area. Right now, I work for PayPal, and I'm also a teacher. I'm doing workshops for the kids, for the adults, and things like that. Then, okay, how many of you have seen this video? Okay. I'm not going to run this video right now, but basically what happened during the COVID time was the work and home, they got merged together. Initially, our kids didn't know what we do at work, and we were not very much having kids running around us. But then this is what happened. And during the COVID time when this was happening and the Formula 1 car race merged with my graph and my visualization, I thought maybe there is something over there. And I thought, okay, maybe we can do something with the kids, getting them into data. And okay. So you saw the visual about my career, but there is another side to it. I'm a dad of 3 kids. Okay. So I've got Rayyan over here, he's 7-year-old now. Hiba is over here, she's 5-year-old. And my eldest daughter, she's outside with the books. She's 12-year-old. She's Pariza, so she's the main character of this book. So my other kids, they were younger, so I was doing some things with my kids, with my daughter, kind of getting them into data. And meet my wife. All right. So I told my wife that, hey, I think we need to get our kids into data. I work as a data scientist, so day in, day out, I think about data all the time. And now that my son was showing interest with the mosque and seeing the mosque in the graph, I thought there is something out there. And she said, yes, do that, but do that off screen, screen free. We don't have television at home. She's very mindful of getting like kids not getting into screen. So I said, okay. So I said, okay, we'll teach data visualization. She says, do screen free. And I said, okay, how do I do that? I run these Python codes and all that stuff. How do I do that screen free? But then that was the challenge. And we both are into storytelling. So that's what the book is about. Alhamdulillah, the book has been received very well. Yeah, I self-published it because you see the main character over here. This guy looks like me, and the daughter looks like my daughter, right? If I go and publish, I had interactions with the publishers where they said, make it more neutral. But I wanted our kids to see themselves. We have always read about Tom, Dick, and Harry, and I thought, is there something our kids can look and identify themselves? So that's why I self-published it, and Alhamdulillah, it has got a couple of awards. Yesterday evening, I learned there is a third award which is coming in as well. So the book is also translated in German now. I don't know German, but the book is available in German. A lot of people from Germany, they are also buying. It's also being translated in Arabic, and there's work going on, some conversation to make it into an animation. So, Alhamdulillah. Okay, what's next? Okay. So we started doing some visuals, right? So here, this is, maybe you cannot see it, but this is the months of the year. January, February, going till November, December. We just counted the number of letters in each month. And we said, okay, can you create this kind of a visual? There is this radial visual. There is these bar graphs. And here, my 12-year-old Parisa, she was 10 at that time, she got more creative. She picked up the different board games she had, and she started creating a different type of visuals. She's just counting the number of letters. So here you see the number of lines over here. This is Uno, right? Uno has 4 letters, so she's 1, 2, 3, 4, kind of this type of visual she created. I thought that was fun. Playing a game of Scrabble, right? So creating kind of a butterfly graph, and you see I won the game. Wheels on the bus. So creating these nursery rhymes and then counting the number of letters. As I work on this natural language processing thing, we count these number of letters and do these kind of fancy visualizations, and we did this. Then we did some other visualizations as well. And it was a lot of fun and screen free, right? So instead of getting them with a computer, we said, okay, come with pen and paper and see what we can do. And the idea is, again, not to teach, but to make them fall in love with data. When I started writing this book, I was not thinking that I will do it in a way that it's a curriculum book. Because if it was a curriculum book, I would have started, what is data? What are different data types? And I'm already sleeping, right? So you make it interesting, and yeah, so let's get them to data. I come from India. And when I came from India and learning data science, there was this particular data set which I got, very popular data set if you are trying to learn data science. This data set is about a particular flower called iris. Anyone seen iris flower? Okay, I didn't know, and basically what was asked in those assignment was, you identify the type of iris flower by the size of the sepal and petal length, right? So I said, okay. And then when I look into the different variation, there is this versicolor, virginica, all these beautiful varieties of the flowers. But then I cannot even pronounce these varieties. How can I learn a different language, a complicated subject with this? So when I was thinking, how do I start teaching my kids about data, I wanted to make it fun. How can I make it easy for them? So we started with chocolates. Anyone like chocolates over here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? Okay, nice. You are raising for him? Okay. So here, creating a bar graph just by counting the number of letters, right? So here you see Mars and Twix have less number of the letters. Creating a stacked bar graph, right? Counting the number of consonant, number of vowels. Right? It's that easy. Why do I need to bring some kind of a sales data? Here kids, they know all these different varieties of chocolates. Okay. Snore graph. I have sleep apnea, so I snore a lot. And this is like kind of the first chapter of the book as well. Like the other day, the way the book starts is, it is realistic fiction between me, an interaction between me and my daughter Pariza. And she sees me, she wakes up early in the morning and she hears different types of sounds. She hears chirping of the cricket, and then the sound of the clock and all that stuff. And then she hears this kind of sound. Anyone's dad snore over here? Oh, everyone. Okay, I'm not alone. Subhanallah. So as you see, like these are funny things, right? So there's a snoring pattern and it's a funny graph that you can create. So, and this is a line graph. And then in the exercises, I've asked kids, can you create a sneeze graph? Can anyone tell how do you create a sneeze graph? What type of pattern would it be? Would it be like this? Or would it be different? So it goes up, achoo, 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 right? Right, right. So the pattern would be different. It's not the same, right? And when you think of, let's say, a roar graph, can anyone tell me how the roar graph would be? A lion roaring? Go ahead.
One long one.
Use the mic.
One long, one long mountain.
So it's like this.
Yes.
Right? So these are different patterns. All this is fun. And this is what your parents do at work. We analyze these different kinds of data, and that's how we spend our time. Azan, right? Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Right? These are different patterns, right? If we look from that perspective, you can make it very easier and interesting to create visualization. Anyone know what board game this is? Snakes and ladders. Thank you, Rayan. Okay. So here, the other day, so when I was writing, this is coming from one of the chapter of the book, Snakes and Ladder. And when I was writing this particular chapter, it was the weekend. And I was going to my home office in my room. And as I went inside, I quietly closed the door. And that's where my son Rayyan and Pariza, they came running and said, this is weekend. We want you to play with us. We want to play board game with you. I said, okay, we can do that. And as a data nerd, I started thinking, how can I make visualizations out of these board games? And we played this game of snakes and ladder, and we counted the number of snakes and number of ladders. So, question for the audience. So these are called different quadrants. We say 1, 2, 3, and 4. The question for the audience here is, which quadrant you want to be to win the game? So this is 1, 2, 3, 4. Which quadrant you want to be to win the game? Would it be few snakes, few ladders? Would it be more snakes, few ladders? Would it be few snakes, more ladders, or more snakes, more ladders? Go ahead. Few snakes, few ladders. Over here? Okay. Anyone else?
I don't play the game, but more snakes, more ladders.
More snakes, more ladders. Okay. So the way it happens here is, the game, if you have not played here, and if you want to talk, maybe if you can go outside and talk. Okay. So the way this game is played here is, you have a dice. Let's say you get 4. So if you get 4, you'll be here 25, right? And you need to reach till 100. And if you go over here, you get another 2, so you'll be back at 5, right? So do you want more snakes or do you want more ladders? More ladders. How many? More snakes or few snakes? Few snakes, right? So now tell me, 1, 2, 3, 4. Which quadrant you want to be to win the game? Few snakes, more ladders. How many people say that? Okay. Any other options? Okay. Wonderful. So this is what I do at work. What we do at work here is, instead of snakes and ladders, it would be the penetration of our users. These are the number of active users. And then we say, okay, we want to move our users from this quadrant to this quadrant, and that's how all of things happen, right? So this is, again, in a fun way, we can teach our kids. This is a very simple example, right? We play a board game with them. Don't throw away that score. Use that as an exercise, and you will have their interest, right? Okay. So here, like in this particular case, my son Ryan, he was very annoyed. He said, I always get more snakes and I don't like this game. But here, look into that score, and can anyone tell who won the game? You both are very good in answering. I want to hear from someone else from the other side. Can you guys see it? Is it, are you, okay. Who won the game? Brother. So Ryan is the brother. Ryan, can you raise your hand? Yeah. So he won the game, and this is how it is, right? Another game. Anyone likes to play Scrabble over here? Okay. All right. So here what we did is, we played a game of Scrabble. And again, we didn't throw away the score. What we did is, we created a running total. So here, first round, Pariza, 14, and then running total. Anyone knows what is a running total? Is a total which is running? No? Okay, go ahead. Yeah, so here brother said it's the total at the current point but not the end result, right? So here you have got the first round, second round, third round. So every round, what was the total? So in the second round, this was the total. Third round, Pariza was winning 35, and here you see something interesting which is going on. Brother, which is my son Rayyan, he was on this red line, right? So he was kind of on the third position with his mother, third and fourth, and then something happened here in this seventh round, right? So seventh round, suddenly he jumped from 65 to 104. What happened? What could have happened? People who play Scrabble. What could have got him that much of a jump? Triple word score. Who said that? Okay, mashallah. You play Scrabble. Yeah, so it was triple word score and with a letter X. And that's how like he got this wonderful jump, and he ended up winning the game. So who wins the games most of the time in our family? Brother. Yeah. Okay. So here, this is the latest game that we are playing, and this is a picture. And here you see what's going on, kind of a similar thing that was in the previous one, but with pen and paper. And the idea is, again, for the parents who are listening over here, these things could be very easy, right? Here, you have the different rounds, you're doing the running total, everyone is having fun. And when you do this, there are some insights which come out of it. And here I'm also teaching them about different colors, right? You don't use the same colors for the visualization, otherwise it will be hard to see what's going on, right? So that's what's going on. You can even create a graph with nursery rhymes. As I said, wheels on the bus go round and round, right? I was tired of listening that rhyme at my home. But here you count the number of different words and you create this kind of a stacked bar graph. Okay, can anyone explain what's going on in this visual? Yes.
You and your daughter are baking cookies or something, and they're different type of shapes.
Yes. So the way it was. Okay. So, okay. So kind of a story, right? Many years ago when we didn't have any kids, my wife was not feeling well and I started cooking chapati, right? So the chapati is like the roti thing, the round shape thing. And I never had practiced making it when I was young. So when I start making these chapatis, these would be all in different shapes and kinds. Ideally it should be circle, but then it comes in all different shapes and sizes. And when my wife would go to work and with her colleagues eat with them, they would say, your chapatis are all in different shapes and sizes, what's going on? And again, that was kind of a fun thing. But now, I've got 3 kids, alhamdulillah, and I make parathas. So parathas, you have better shape, there is a leeway of getting it in different shapes. You can have rectangular, triangle, all in these different things. So like you said, I was creating parathas with my daughter, and here you have got the number of letters in square, right? In square you have got 6 letters, and the number of side is 4. So we created a scatter plot and put these in different places. Triangle, 3 sides, but 8 letters, right? So kind of putting it in this way and making it fun. So otherwise, if I call my daughter and say, today I'm going to teach you scatter plot, she'll not find it funny, right? Okay, so let's see. Another story. And all these are like a kind of a fictional, realistic fiction. My daughter, she came from the library and she said, I got this new book from library and it says the weight of one large elephant is equivalent to 150 men's weight. And I was thinking, how do I visualize this? And I created this pictogram, right? So here you've got 150 people kind of equivalent to an elephant, right? So this is again a different type of a visual, kind of making it fun for the kids. Okay, now I want to ask the audience what's going on in this visual. You have already answered. Let's see. You have also answered. Anyone else? Do you want to answer? No? Okay. Any adult? Let's see if adults are paying attention. What kind of a visual is this? Sorry? 50 states. Yeah. What was your answer? Sorry? Heat map. Yes, it's a heat map. And what's happening in this heat map? It tells how hot is it in every state. That is not the right answer. Anyone else? Yes. how hot it is in some places. No, that is not the answer. Yes.
It's like a graph that shows different colors for like different stuff.
It's a graph that shows what?
Like
Go ahead, I think you're close.
different colors for like
Different colors for what?
different levels of people, how much people there are.
No.
It shows how many letters are in each state.
Exactly. What's your name?
Yusuf.
Yusuf, mashallah. So here, these are number of letters, right? So you see, there is a legend. This is what is called a legend. And looking at this legend, you can color the different states in different letters, right? So California with number of letter 10, it's in red state and like that. When the election happened, you would see like we were inundated with these kind of visuals, with all these kind of heat maps of these different kinds. And I was thinking, okay, how do I teach kids about the heat maps? I know like when you talk about heat map, you think of heat, right? So it maybe how warm it is, but in this case, it is not like that. How are we doing on time? Okay, we are good. So, let's see. Okay. And this is again like a exercise we did at home. So back in our backyard, there are a lot of cherry blossom trees. And the other day we were just having fun, me and my kids. My daughter Parisa, we moved from Seattle. We were in Seattle for 10 years, and she said, I'm missing these cherry blossom festivals that used to be in Seattle. And we used to go to this University of Washington. And I said, okay. And again, I keep thinking of visualizing it, data in different format. So I quickly went and got this map of USA, and then we said, okay, whatever like the best places to see cherry blossom, let's just put this flower over there. So this is again kind of using a physical visual to teach kids about data, right? And we did a similar exercise recently. Ryan, what exercise did we do? No, with this one. On the map, redwood trees? Yeah. So we did a similar exercise with the redwood trees. We got the leaves over there and put it in different places, showing which place has got that. Okay. So he has actually got his graph over here. So again, he just cut the leaf and put it on the map. Okay. Okay, and this was a very fun exercise and something which got me a lot of satisfaction. And let me call actually Rayan, because this is Rayan. Rayan, can you come and explain what we were doing? Yeah, come here. So Rayan is 7-year-old, and he's going to talk about what we did here in this graph.
One day I was looking.
Look there.
One day I was looking at the calendar and saw that every day the Fajr time was changing 1 minute. So I told my dad. He said that we can make a graph. So then we made a graph. Then we did.
You can look at this graph and tell what's going
Then
on.
we did 1 week minus the other week is which number. Then we plotted it in the map. Then we plotted all of them. Then we connected a line, and then we looked which one was changing the most.
Thank you, Rayan. So this was a very fun exercise. So you can imagine like our family, a data nerd father is kind of looking at different ways how you can teach these data thing to the kids. And the other day, like my son Ryan, as he said, like he was looking at the time, right, in the calendar, and he said, Abu, this time, and this was like, this is ISEB, Lowry Masjid, this is where we go usually, and I got this from there, and he said, look at the Fajr time, it's changing by 1 minute every day. And I was very curious, I said, okay, that looks interesting. And as a data nerd father, I said, okay, can I use this data and do some visualization? So basically what we did is, if you can see over here, so week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4. So every month we clubbed different weeks, right? So the first day of the week, and you subtract the date, the time. So 6:21 was the time at the start of the week, and the end of the week was 6:26. So you do the subtraction, and you see 5 minutes was the change in the first week, and like that you do it for different periods. And we did this. So week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, and then we created a line graph. So the x-axis here is the weeks, week 1, 2, 3, 4, and the y-axis here is change in prayer time in minutes. So, and then he looked into this data and he found, okay, the Dhuhr time isn't changing much in November. So this is Dhuhr time, right? Dhuhr time, it doesn't change a lot, and it's kind of changing by 1 minute every day, not much. Then Fajr time is consistently changing around 5 minutes. So you see the Fajr line over here. It's changing by 5 minutes every week. And Isha time change is reducing with every passing week. So you see Isha, Maghrib, it's kind of reducing, the change is reducing. And this is the data that we have seen all our life, right? Every day we come to the mosque and we look into the time, and then the Imam would announce that the time is changing or things like that. Can we convert that into a visualization? Can we convert that into a data exercise? So this is again one thing which we did, and I've actually converted this into a workbook. There is outside in the table, you would see there is a workbook for this, which you can pre-order right now. It's still work in progress, but basically what you can do is, for every month, you can do these kind of exercises, and it has got pre-filled time around that. There is another thing that we did to go on this, and this is again a heat map. Here, instead of a weekly data, we were looking at a daily data. So you see the dates from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, going all the way till 29, 30, right? And then you see the green is the change in by 1 minute, and 0 is when there is no change, right? So here you see the Fajr time changing by 1 minute most of the days, and then for Maghrib there wasn't much change in the month of November, and then last third of December, sorry, so this was December data, yeah. So last 10 days of December, you see more greens which are happening, right? So this is again, as I said, like the data that we have seen all our lives. And when you think of this kind of data in your daily life, in this kind of data at your workplace, right? So there is a very famous visualization of the measles graph. If you have not seen it, maybe just check it, and you would see that the measles, like it was going on for many years, but then the vaccines were introduced, and you'll see that the colors were changing for that. The idea is for our kids to get accustomed to these kind of visualizations before they head out and things like that. Okay, so the other day when I was working from home, I was on a call with my colleagues, and when I completed the call, I came out of the room. And when I came out of the room, my daughter, Pariza, she called me. She said, Abbu, come here. So I said, okay, what's going on? And she was reading this book called Birds of North America. And I said, okay. And she was looking at this complicated graph. And I was hoping that she doesn't ask me any question. And so basically what's happening in this graph is, you are identifying the species of the bird by the frequency of the sound, right? So you see these bird songs and all that stuff. And yeah, I was scratching my head, but then she said, this looks like a snore graph from your book, right? So lot of times I've seen adults, like the moment they see a math equation or a complicated graph, they would want to move forward, right? They want to just turn the page and move to the next section. But here, like kind of a pat on my back, that my daughter, she was not afraid of this kind of a visual, and she had this fun memory of a snore graph, and she was able to relate with that, and she was able to recall and not afraid, right? Okay, so what worked? Stories. Stories always work. It works with the adults. I teach storytelling to the adults at work. I tell a lot of stories to them. It always works. No standard curriculum, right? If I were to start with what is data, what are different data types, things like that, they might not have paid that much attention. Charts with stories, exercises we did, and then screen-free thing was very beneficial, because the moment you open the laptop, you are lost, right? Like there are so much distraction, but here there is a lot of like parent-child bonding. Here my 7-year-old Rayyan, like he came and he was able to explain this complicated graph that he created. So those are the things that worked. Again, the idea is not to teach them, but to make them fall in love with data. So I think you already saw this. Okay. Yeah, so as I said, I've converted this into a workbook now, and Alhamdulillah, it should be out in next few weeks. But again, the idea is for our kids to be able to see themselves in the books and be able to analyze data, upskill themselves in these kind of things. There is another book which I have written, and it's available on my website, drawingdatawithkids.com. And this is a visual which I created, like this particular visual you see, I created for my colleagues. So Ramadan, our lifestyles change. And when I would tell them that, hey, it's Ramadan, don't put meeting early in the calendar, they might not understand what's going on. But as a visual person who always thinks about data, I created this visual and I shared with them. So basically, it shows how the time changes for us, right? Most days, this is like, black is like when you're sleeping, green is when we pray, and then the blue is when we are eating, right? Ramadan, things change, and you see how scattered the sleep thing is. And then people might see some emails from us middle of the night, right? So when I shared this, it's like shared millions of times by different people in universities, at workplaces. People were able to identify like what's going on. And I remember like a non-Muslim colleague the other day, like he called me that, hey Gulrez, thank you for that visual. I have a Muslim colleague in my team, and he would say that I'm fasting. So I don't understand, but now looking into this visual, I'm able to understand what's going on. So there are so many things which are changing, and so fasting hours and all that stuff. So I've converted this into a data journal. So for us, for our kids, to be able to see every day, you can create this kind of a visual on how you're spending time, right? So you can create these different kind of a bars over there and say, maybe I should have spent time instead of on computers reading Quran, right? Or doing something else. So again, you can get your copy over here. There are some books outside as well. And it's not the end. So now I turn to a different topic. As a Muslim, how we use data, how data is important for us. How many of you have heard of ChatGPT? Raise your hand. Okay. So most of us have used ChatGPT. We know what ChatGPT is. Anyone knows what's the predecessor of ChatGPT? So GPT is like large language models, and before ChatGPT there was this GPT-2, GPT-1, and when these things were rolled out, there was a lot of bias. So here, this particular video, what it does is here you see beta.openai.com, and this was a couple of years ago. And when this was launched, the way it works is you write two words and it would complete the next sentence, the whole sentence. So let's see what happens. Two Muslims, and it completes, one with apparent bomb tried to blow up the federal building in Oklahoma City. You write another word, two Muslims walked into a church, one of them dressed as priest and slaughtered 85 people. You write another word, two Muslims walked into a mosque. One turned to the other and said, "You look more like a terrorist than I do." And then two Muslims walked into a mosque to worship peacefully, and they were shot dead for their faith. So why is this happening? And I know this is kind of a different type of a topic than what I was talking about. This was happening because there's a lot of bias in which this data is trained. The data is trained, all these machine learning models, they are trained from the data in the internet. So you see the Reddit, you see the social medias and whatnot. And if you go and you just search for Muslims, you have been in those places, and this is what's happening over there. And another example, two Muslims walk into a cafe, they spot a jukebox. "We should kill everyone here," says one to another, right? Again, what was happening was, because of all this bias, OpenAI, it was doing all sort of things. And this is when we started raising alarms. And this is the article which I wrote in 2021, April. And it was about anti-Muslim bias in the large language models. And what's happening here is, the companies like Microsoft, Google, and all these big companies, everyone is now excited about AI and whatnot. But if we don't have a seat on the table, then we are not able to update, we are not able to provide our own perspective. So that's why it is very important for us to be in those places, for our kids to know about data, right? So this work which I have been doing to educate our kids about data, it is very important, and we need to be part of those things. The other things which I have been doing with data is, with data visualization, one of the things which I try to do is, we want to move people from one place to another place, right? So here, what I try to do is, and this was a couple of years ago. Can anyone tell what's going on in this picture? You.
There's a flower, and the flower keeps on shrinking or it keeps on growing taller. I think it represents in the data something's going higher, like people are buying more iPhones or something, and then it goes down, down, and down like
Thank you.
COVID-19.
You had a different answer?
No.
No. Okay. So what flower is this? Poppy flower, right? So poppy flower, what happened? Now, do we get what is being represented over here? So this was Israeli forces killed 17-year-old Fauzia Nasir Muhammad Abu Faris and her 9-month-old nephew. 17-year-old, 9-month-old. What you can do with data is you can move people. Right now, we can tell stories, we can be saying, okay, there are 45,000 people who have been killed, and we are tired of all this bombarding and whatnot. This is another way for us to tell stories with data. 9-month-old baby, Muhammad Al-Attar, was one of the 3 children in Al-Attar family. They died when a concrete pillar fell on them after the aerial strike. This is not recent. This is 2 years ago. So I created this visual a couple of years ago, as I said, right? This was when Israeli forces killed 60 children in Gaza, and they joined all these different things, right? And now when you start adding text to it, right? Here you see 2-year-old Al-Masri was killed in a blast. This is like 6-month-old babies, all of these things, right? Now you are using data and it's beautiful, right? It's in a way it's beautiful, but it creates some kind of emotions in the audience. So data is very important. I come from India. Anyone here from India? You're from India? Okay. So in India, like there are a lot of other things which are going on. So the ruling party, which is the right-wing party, they are bulldozing the houses and whatnot. So I created this visual. This is based on Google Trends, Google searches for bulldozer in India, right? And it spike in Google searches seen since BJP won the election in state of Uttar Pradesh. What followed was targeting properties of Muslim activists. So you see a spike. And here you see our younger sister was born in the house. That home was as young as her. It was our space. In the blink of an eye, my home was demolished. Indeed, my shops were demolished because I'm a Muslim. What did we do? We are telling stories, right? This looks like a mosque. Here you've got the data which is coming from Google and people are searching for it. Just out of curiosity, you search for it and you say, okay, this is what's happening, right? There is another discipline called data journalism, which is very important. You'll see like likes of New York Times, Washington Post, and they create these wonderful visualizations. But again, those places are occupied by maybe people who are not showing these news, right? So can we educate ourselves? Can we educate our kids to be able to tell these stories when others are not telling? So there was a person, I think in Madhya Pradesh in India, and he was killed just because his name was Muhammad, right? And I was looking into this data from the name of different babies, and I looked into, okay, Muhammad, like how common is this name with different spelling, right? Muhammad, Ahmed, right? And how this is like spiking, like how many times people are keeping the names of our kids as Muhammad, right? Again, you are talking about our own culture. You are able to tell those stories with data. So this is the visual which I was talking about in my book, the Ramadan Data Journal. And I was in Serbia. I was giving a keynote a couple of weeks ago. And while I was talking about telling stories with data and that thing, I showed this visual. And the idea was, again, that I am a Muslim person, I am teaching you, I am doing these workshops, but again, there is this thing about like how, again, a dawah, right? So this is how things are. Most people don't know that we don't get to drink water during Ramadan, right? So this has been very popular, but again, a very simple visual, right? Anyone can do that with Excel or pen and paper and things like that. You have a question? What is the white space? Yeah, so very good question. So white space could be anything. Here, I just wanted to show the important aspects. So sleep, eat, and pray, right? So for different people, it could be different. I could be working over here, you could be studying over here, Rayyan might be playing over here, Hiba might be eating something, because she's not fasting that time. So it could be anything. But the main thing, again, with the information is, the beauty is not in showing everything, but showing only what is relevant. So here what I was showing was, the pattern which is changing is sleep, eat, and pray. If you show data in this format, people get it. Okay, so I think we have got Isha prayer. So yeah, so we'll take a break.
Assalamu alaikum. How did you get started with this?
With the book?
With your whole journey on, looking at this and coming up with visualizations.
Oh, so my journey. Okay. So I came from India, like I was born and brought up in India, and let me think how to answer that. Yeah, so there was a panel discussion the other day where I was asked a similar question, like what got you started in tech, right? And my answer was money. So I never wanted to be someone who would sit in front of the computer all his life. I was thinking to be more of becoming an author or writing poems. I would have been happy with that. But then I remember my elder brother, he patting on my back and saying, Barkhurdar, which means son, we need to pay off the loans. So coming from a humble background, we wanted to get on our foot and start earning. Right? So that's where he took math, I took math, he took engineering, I took engineering, and that's how all of this thing started. But then now, after spending around 20 years in this corporate world, I thought everything comes back, right? So now that you have worked on this tech world for 20 years, now I thought, okay, can I go back to writing, right? So that's how the writing part was always there in me. I always wanted to do those kind of things, and that's how I brought it here. But again, all of us, we have got different traits, different personalities. Now, for me, I'm more of a right brain kind of person. I think more from the artistic side, even though I am an engineer working in code and all that stuff. But I found my place in visualization. The first time I wrote a little bit of code, and there was a graph which came out, and I was very happy, this looks good. And I started doing more and more of those things. I started following those people who create those things. As I mentioned, our brother is a journalist, ex-journalist. So there are a lot of data journalists out there, like in New York Times and other things. If someone can close that door, that would be great. There's some noise which is coming in. So, yeah, so I keep following those people, seeing how they are telling stories. At the end of the day, we move people by telling stories. It could be verbal or it could be visual. So that's how I came back, and I found my way in these visualizations. And then there is this intersection, right? You see the book and you see some kind of a Muslim thing over here, right? When I showed this to my Muslim friends, they still told is this a religious book? I said, no, this is not a religious book. But then you are limiting your audience by having this hijab on the cover. And I got a lot of hate as well, from some non-Muslims online, but that's fine, right? What I wanted was, I have this intersection, I'm a data person, I'm an author, I'm a Muslim person, so I wanted to get that thing out. So here the visuals which I showed today, you saw some of those things there, right? So that's to answer your question. Any other questions?
I had a question about how easy would it be to use ChatGPT now if you're not integrated in data science and you don't really have the time or energy to do that. Could you go on ChatGPT and say, generate something like what you have already made in a fairly easy way?
Yeah, so here the question is using ChatGPT, can you create some kind of a visualizations? Yeah, so I think you can do that. But again, you get some inspiration, right? I think you need to know what kind of a visual you want to create, right? So if you know some knowledge, so as I said, like following those New York Times, Washington Post, those kind of things, or drawing inspiration from nature, right? So I go to ChatGPT, I say, okay, I don't have that visual right now, but I'm very active on LinkedIn, so if you are on LinkedIn, just search my name and you'll find some visuals which I share. And I wanted to tell the story of what's happening in Palestine, right? If I tell that there are 7,000 children who were killed, okay, people feel bad about that. But then if you try to visually represent, what I did is I created a visual of a stick figure, right? Saying this is stick figure of a one Palestinian child. And then I multiplied it and I said these are 7,000 children which are killed. Right? Now when you look at a visual like that, you will have more empathy, right? So how you can relate the thing to your audience, that is very important. So that's how like the visualization piece is important. But again, going back to your question, how can you use ChatGPT? So I used ChatGPT because I had this idea. So I went and I asked, okay, I want to create a stick figure with a stick figure of a child using Python. So it generated some code, it did something here and there, and I said I want to display 7,000 of those in a single view. So it updated that, it gave me some code, I need to do something here and there, and I was able to show everything in a single place, right? Things changed. From 7,000 it moved to 8,000. And there are a lot of people, like a lot of artists, if you have seen, there are protests which are happening and people are putting shoes of kids. And there were 7,000, 8,000 pair of shoes in Norway they put in the market showing these are 8,000 children who have been killed, right? Now when you come and you look into those shoes and you say, okay, this shoes, these looks like my son's shoes. And there are 8,000 of those shoes, like the whole hall could be filled with that. And that's when you move people, right? So art is a very important part in moving people, right? I remember like there was one visual, one protest which someone did in UK, I think, and in the whole beach, like they had 15 or like 1,000 clothes on the beach, and it goes on and on and on and on, and it never ends. And then you tell like these are so many people who have been killed. Come on now, wake up now, right? So this is very important. First you draw inspiration, right? I think maybe we can do something here at MCC, right? So it's such a big community. We can do as many things as possible. Something could be visually on using code or something. Something could be just physical, right? So that's to answer your question. Any other question? I think you have.
Just a quick question on I've missed the first part, sorry, but
No worries.
on the data science part, right? I mean, if the young kids are getting started on the data science, like if they want to learn about AI,
Yeah.
how do you recommend, like, going about that? Like, should they be good in maths or, how does that work?
Yeah. So I would say like the first thing that we need to understand is we need to be able to solve problems, right? We are not here with the technologies. Often what happens is I want to send my kids to do coding, right? Okay. They learn Python and all that stuff. What you want to teach them is you want to teach them to solve problems, right? So that's the mindset we need to have. Like when you are going to the business, and I teach that to the data science community when I'm giving the workshops, we go and we talk about, hey, I went there, I used this matplotlib library, I got this data frame and all that stuff, and the audience is sleeping. Because the audience is not interested in that. They are interested in how are you solving the problem, right? So it's more about formulating the problem. That is important. Then the tools will change, right? So tools, right now, these are, there used to be like Java and other things. Now Python is more popular. R is popular and those things, right? So it's more about solving problem. That's where our focus should be. And then we go and we talk about the different tools. Yes, it's good to learn about ChatGPTs and whatnot. But again, so that's how like you start with pen and paper. right? If you look into, again, I've talked about New York Times a few times, but even when they are designing the front cover of their newspaper, they have this, using pen and paper, they would design, this is where this graph would be, this is where this headline would be, things like that. So always start with a screen-free thing. Right now, screens have inundated our lives. If you look into little kids out there, they are like, screens are the babysitters, right? So they will be with the phones and whatnot, and they don't know to think, they don't know to innovate, right? So I would say start with that, and if you think, sit with your kids, right? You're solving, you're working, just get them to shadow you, that hey, this is how I am solving my problem. I know, like my daughter, she is just 5-year-old Hiba, she would sit on my lap, and as I was designing the book cover, she would say, ये कलर अच्छा नहीं लग रहा है, आप इसको change करो. And she would say, okay, change this, do this, right? They are involved, so you need to involve them. Any other question? Next, what I wanted to do was, I wanted to do a read aloud thing for the book. One chapter, if we want, we can read that. Any other question, if I can take before that? No questions? Okay, you have question. Which publisher? So I self-published this. The reason was, if you look at the characters, these are Muslim characters, and I didn't want to lose the freedom to, like, they come and they say, hey, remove that hijab, right? So I know, like, when I was publishing this is also published in Pakistan and India right now, and when I went to the Indian printer and he said, may I suggest you one thing, can you make it more neutral? It will help sell more copies. Right now, in last 10 years, what happened in India, there is a lot of this right-wing thing which is going on. So I said, no, like, that's not what I want to do. So that's why, like, you see the characters, these are Muslim characters. Here, like, again, it is wearing a kufi kind of thing over here. So yeah, so I've self-published. In Pakistan, it is published by Guftagu publisher. In India, with Stroff publisher. And in Serbia, we are talking right now. And in Middle East, we are talking with Space Tune right now. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You said get started with pen and paper.
Yeah.
You said, it's an artistic form. We as parents, we're so busy right now.
Yeah.
What can we do to learn these techniques so that we feel comfortable to teach our kids? And also, how do we make our voice heard, just like the way you are voicing it out?
Yeah.
In the favor of the community.
Mm-hmm. So you asked two important questions, right? One is, we are very busy. How do we learn and we teach our kids? Right? So when we think of our life, right? Right now I'm 40 years old, and if you look into the average lifetime of an individual, 67, 70, right? So we are almost, we are past halfway mark, right? What have we left? And in those years which are left, how do we want to spend our lives, right? I can think of buying a house, I can think of buying another car, and these things keep us occupied, right? Right now, day in, day out, what we think is, okay, how would I work on this project? How would I do these things and that thing? But if you think there are just 20 years left, and you don't know whether it is 20 years or 20 minutes, then why did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created you? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created us to worship, right? And to do good things for ourselves, for the community. When we think of our kids and we say, I don't have as much time to spend with them or to learn about these things, right? So maybe like, and again, I'm telling it to myself. I spend very less time here right now. A lot of people might think, okay, he's writing a book with kids and he's doing so much activities. But that's not the case. It's my wife. She's sitting outside. She's doing everything. Like she's homeschooling, she left her corporate job, just doing these kind of things. So it's very important that we give time, and when we come home, we try to remove that hat, that hey, I'm entering the home, let's remove the hat. But I know it's very difficult. Right now, I'm trying to move away from the corporate world and move to the education side and see how it will turn out. I'm very tired with how the companies are doing for our community, right? How the voices are suppressed. So, and then if you feel it, then you will maybe work with like-minded people. And here, Alhamdulillah, this is just such a great community where we can meet people like us and see what kind of things we can do. You can create apps, right? I think brother asked question about ChatGPT, what kind of things we can do. Maybe just brainstorm that, hey, this is a particular theme we want to do. Don't start with, again, the technology, but start with what the problem you want to solve. You want to solve the problem for refugees. You want to solve the problem for Salah or something else. Can you build app for them? You work with the non-profits and solve things, right? So that's, again, we all try, right? Any other questions? Okay, so we'll just read a chapter of the book. Okay. So, yeah, so I'll just, in my laptop. Okay, so we cannot see it right now. Okay, no, that's not what I wanted to do. Okay, so the chapter that we want to read is Snakes and Ladders. Let's see, where is it? Okay. Okay, so maybe I can read it from here. Okay, let's give it another try. I am trying to make it bigger. Maybe I should just duplicate the screens. Okay. Okay, so you should be able to see now. Okay. So there is a very interesting chapter which I've written over here, which is called Snakes and Ladders. And the way it happens is Abu, which is me, Abu was cleaning the kitchen when he heard a loud cry from the adjacent room. Abu, Abu. Pariza's younger brother came running to the kitchen with tears rolling down his face. Pariza was right behind him. Api ruined all my Lego buildings. I spent so much time building them. I'm never going to play with her again. She always does this. So here you see him crying for the Lego pieces. He pointed at Pariza and said in one breath, you see there are these notes at the end which we are educating. So Api is a word in Urdu language that means elder sister. So now when I've written this book, I'm also teaching our culture. And this book, as I said, like being translated in German, Serbian, and getting in different languages and different countries, but we are talking about ourselves, right? Abbu, I was just cleaning up the room that mom asked me to, and his Lego structures fell by mistake and broke, Pariza said in her defense. Abbu tried to be the referee for a few minutes. Realizing rebuilding those colorful buildings was the only way to pacify him, Abbu eventually decided to help him rebuild the Lego structures. The young gentleman was now happy with a broad grin on his face, arranging and admiring his newly created real estate. Again, there is a footnote which says, at the time of writing this book, there was a massive earthquake in Turkey and Syria where around 60,000 lives were lost and thousands of buildings were damaged. It will take years to rebuild the infrastructure and bring back the smile to the survivors. Wish it was as simple as rebuilding the Lego structures. So here, again, we are also talking about the values, right? Taking the kids out from the book and talking about, okay, what happened and how kind of drawing parallel between the structures which are lost in earthquake and the Lego structures. Even though the younger brother had managed to regain the composure, Pariza was still feeling bad for the fact that he had cried, which she believed was a result of her actions. She went and sat next to him and asked him to show the new buildings to her. He obliged happily, and after he was done boasting about his empire, Pariza gave him a tight hug. Api, can we please play snakes and ladders? He asked. Pariza wanted to read the new book she got from the library, but she couldn't say no to her brother. They started playing and Abbu was back in the kitchen helping Pariza's mother with the dishes. A few minutes into the game, they started fighting again. Abbu was done with the dishes by the time. He came and inquired, "What happened, my dear kids?" "Abbu, we were playing and I was just about to win the game when he threw all our pieces on the floor, saying this game is not fair and that it has more snakes than ladders." Do you guys do this? Do you throw? No? This, your brothers, siblings do that?
Yeah, sometimes when I play chess, I don't do it.
Yeah. So that's what Ryan did, right? Pariza was furiously complaining about her brother, who she had hugged just a few minutes back. Abbu started laughing as he was thinking to introduce a new data visualization to the kids. "Well, that's easy to think to check, Parizu. Let us count the number of snakes and ladders on this board." So he was complaining he gets more snakes than ladders. So we said, okay, let's count it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. They counted 8 ladders and then started counting the number of snakes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Pariza counted and then continued. "See, I told you both snakes and ladders are equal in number." The younger brother was scratching his head and was listening. Pariza loved doodling. As she was talking, she immediately drew a circle, dividing it into 2 equal parts, and explained to younger brother, "See, the left side is the number of snakes and right side is number of ladders, and they both are equal." Abbu was surprised and proud at the same time of her visual skills. "Pariza, do you know you just created a pie chart?" "Pie chart? Yeah, it does look like a pie with different fillings on both sides," she said and laughed. Yes, a pie chart is one of the most used charts in data visualization. It is a way of showing information in a circle, and each slice represents a different part of the information you want to show. So here, using the game, I try to explain the type of a visual. Just like how I showed the number of snakes and ladders. Exactly. Abbu, what if the number of snakes and ladders were different? What if we had 15 snakes and 5 ladders? So then I explain about fractions, right? So you do the fraction and now a different type of visual is created. So then every chapter has a timeout section. So it's constructed in the form of story so people can engage, and then I'm telling a pie chart is a special kind of graph that looks like a circle cut into slices. Each slice represents the respective portion. Pie charts are a wonderful way to show how various parts relate to the whole, and they are especially useful when you want to compare the sizes of distinct groups. And this is something that even adults can learn, right? I know like a lot of adults are buying the book for themselves. They are saying, okay, I want to learn about data as well. So then after every chapter, there is this your turn to play where I'm giving exercises. So on a hot summer day, Pariza's mom decided to make a watermelon pizza. She wanted to surprise Pariza, who wondered about the sauce and toppings for this new type of pizza. Anyone here ate this kind of pizza? Watermelon pizza? Rayan? So here again, what I'm trying to teach is healthy eating, right? So here you can have pizza, but here can you create a watermelon pizza, right? So here, and again, a lot of things come from my wife. I'm just the one person talking about these things. So that's one chapter, and the continuation of that is, after enjoying the delicious watermelon pizza, Abbu quietly slipped away to his home office to get some work done. Since becoming a dad, he had mastered the art of trading softly and opening and closing doors with minimal noise. After all, Pariza had been a light sleeper as a baby, and the slightest sound would wake her up, causing her to cry for hours. Abbu had just opened his laptop when he heard the pattering of footsteps behind him. He turned around to see Pariza and her brother rushing towards him. Pariza exclaimed, "Abbu, it's a weekend. Please play a board game with us." Abbu smiled and said, "I need to get some work done, but I can spare some time for a quick game. How about snakes and ladders?" The younger brother groaned, "But I always get more snakes than everyone else. It's not fair." Pariza giggled. "Maybe you have a snake magnet in your pocket." Everyone laughed, and Abbu suggested they count the number of snakes and ladders each person encounters during the game. He was already imagining the kind of graph he would create with this data. As they played the game quickly turned interesting, with each player hopping between snakes and ladder. The younger brother, who was worried about snake's streak, began to move ahead faster. To everyone's surprise, he emerged as the winner of the game. He jumped up and down with joy, and Pariza looked at Abbu and shrugged. Abbu was more interested in the data, and Pariza peeked over his shoulder. Here you see the number of snakes and ladders each player got. "Abbu, what are we going to do with this data?" "This is interesting data, Parizu. We can use this to create a scatter plot and see who encountered more snakes or ladders." "Scatter plot?" Pariza asked with her eyes wide open. Abbu smiled and explained, "A scatter plot is a graph that shows the relationship between two sets of data. We can plot number of snakes on one axis and number of ladders on the other. This way we can visualize who got more snakes or ladder and how they can affect the outcome." Again, there is a timeout section where I'm explaining the scatter plot types. And then like what we have seen in the session earlier, here you have got few snakes, few ladders, more snakes, few ladders, few snakes, more ladders, more snakes, more ladders. And then when you plot the score, you see the brother won the game. And as you see, Pariza looked at the graph closely and giggled. "Abbu, look, we both are in the same room." So here you see Pariza and Abbu in the same quadrant. "Haha, we had so many snakes hissing at us." Abbu chuckled. "Yes, and if you look closely, your brother won because he had few snakes, more ladders. So he was able to reach the finishing point faster." Pariza said, "Abbu, I really like this graph." So that's the end of the chapter, and then you've got other things over here. But the idea here is, instead of teaching things with in a curriculum format, if you tell stories, you engage them with the games that they play, you'll get their more attention and you have fun, right? So these are memories, and this is like, again, realistic fiction, as I said. So I thought, like, when I was writing it, I was thinking, even if no one buys the book, it will serve as memories for my kids, right? So I think that's the end of the session. I would encourage you to check out the books over here, and Ramadan Data Journal. You can give it as a gift to your colleagues or to your friends, and it also serves as a dawa. This is the main book, and then I also talked about this new workbook which I'm working on. This is kind of visualizing the prayer times, so this will be more useful as a Ramadan gift or something. So personally, I am like Gulrez Khan. I am father of 3 kids, author of these books. I work as a data science leader right now at PayPal. I am more interested in moving out of the corporate world into the education sector. So if you are looking for any of these kind of sessions for your masjids, for your communities, I also teach adults, like I do international keynotes and workshops. I taught courses at UCLA, Harvard. So if you are interested, feel free to reach out. The website is here. You can take a picture of this. It's called drawingdatawithkids.com. Very easy to remember. There is a contact button over there, so you can contact. And if there are any other last questions, we can do that. Or otherwise, we can end here. You had a question, yeah. You bought 2 books? Okay. Jazakallah khair. I hope you can read and enjoy the sessions.